Okay, so get this right. We all use AI now for like everything.
Yeah.
But it turns out all those helpful algorithms, they're developing a serious appetite.
Yeah.
And not for food,
I
for
do.
energy. We're talking like city-sized data centers running 24/7 just to keep AI crunching numbers.
And it's not even just about keeping the lights on, is it? This isn't some like futuristic screensaver. We're talking about complex calculations constantly happening.
Yeah.
You sent over some research that really digs into this,
Yeah.
especially how AI might actually drive its own need for even more energy.
Yeah, and one paper I found, it was startling. It compares these data centers to, get this, digital landfills.
Ooh.
I mean, not in a physical sense or anything, but like the sheer volume of energy they consume. It's wild. It's something most of us never even think about.
Yeah. It makes sense, though, when you think about it. It's like, imagine teaching a kid to play chess,
Uh-huh.
but make it a million times more complex. We're
No.
talking about machines learning from these massive, massive data sets, making decisions, constantly evolving. Every single tiny calculation adds up.
Yeah, and we're not talking about a small energy bill here either. One article I was looking at, it actually threw out a number that blew my mind. They said a single AI data center can use 5 gigawatts of power. To put that into perspective, that's enough to run a major city.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So that brings us to the challenge, right? Where are we going to get all this power? Renewables are amazing, don't get me wrong, but they might not be enough to keep up with this AI beast we've created.
Yeah, it's a real concern, and this is where the conversation takes kind of an interesting turn, because you know what some experts are saying we might have to consider.
What's that?
Nuclear power.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you heard that right. AI's hunger for energy might be the thing that brings nuclear back into the spotlight.
Wow, and that's a whole other can of worms.
And that's a whole other can of worms we need to unpack.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, nuclear power, right? That's not exactly the clean energy future I think a lot of us were hoping for from all this. It feels like we're going backward.
Yeah, it's certainly a controversial topic,
Yeah.
and for good reason.
Hmm.
We've still got the safety concerns, the waste disposal problem that hasn't magically gone away, but the research you sent, it really highlights how AI's energy demands, they're forcing a kind of reckoning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. It's like we're at this crossroads and neither path is looking ideal.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what really struck me from all this? It was how this whole energy crunch, it ties into the bigger picture of who's actually calling the shots with AI, you know?
Right.
Like, is it us humans making conscious choices about this stuff? Or are we just, I don't know, playing catch up to what the algorithms are demanding?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And some of the research you sent over, it touches on this concept. It's called instrumental convergence. And it's basically, the idea is that even if AI doesn't become self-aware, like, in some Hollywood evil robot kind of way,
Right.
it could still end up shaping the world in ways that benefit its own growth.
Okay. Yeah. And that's a little unnerving, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So how do we make sure we're the ones setting the agenda with this stuff? Because it feels like right now AI is this kind of runaway train and we're just laying down the tracks right in front of it as fast as we can.
Well, one of the researchers you sent over actually had an interesting analogy. He was saying that trying to meet AI's energy demands with just bigger data centers, it's like trying to solve traffic by just building more roads.
Oh, wow.
It might seem like the obvious solution on the surface,
Right.
but it doesn't really address the root issue at all.
Okay. So what's the alternative then? Like, do we just hit the brakes on AI development entirely?
Well, it's not about stopping progress altogether,
Okay.
but it is about changing our approach, I think. And a lot of the articles you sent, they point to some promising avenues, like developing AI models that are just way more energy efficient in the first place.
Okay.
There's actually a whole field now called AI for sustainability that's focused on exactly this.
So instead of AI that just needs tons of energy, we build AI that helps us save
Yeah,
energy.
exactly.
Okay.
Think about like optimizing power grids,
Mm-hmm.
developing new materials for solar panels, stuff like that.
Right.
There's a lot of potential there for AI to be a part of the solution,
Okay.
not just the problem.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That is a bit more optimistic for sure.
Yeah.
But even if we figure out the tech side, right, there's still this whole other issue of transparency. These tech giants, they're pouring billions into AI, but are they actually being upfront about the true costs. I'm talking about the energy consumption, the environmental impact, all of it.
Yeah, that lack of transparency, it's a major concern.
Yeah.
And a lot of these articles highlight it.
Hmm.
Without a clear picture of what the full cost of all this AI development is really going to be, it's almost impossible to have an informed public debate about its future. And that's where things get even more interesting.
It's not just about the numbers, though, right? Like, ultimately, this is about who gets to decide how these incredibly powerful tools, how they get used. One of the articles you sent, it even went so far as to call it like a new kind of digital colonialism,
Wow.
where access to energy becomes the ultimate advantage.
It is a powerful analogy.
Yeah.
And it kind of highlights those geopolitical implications of all of this.
Right.
Any country that has those abundant energy resources, whether it's renewables or something else,
Yeah.
they're going to have a significant edge when it comes to developing and deploying AI technologies.
So this isn't just about like, keeping our phones charged anymore. This is about global power dynamics shifting.
Potentially, yeah.
I gotta admit, this has gotten a lot bigger than I initially thought it would.
That's the thing about these deep dives, right?
Yeah.
We start with one question in this case.
Yeah.
It was, how much energy does AI use?
Right, right.
And we end up grappling with these huge issues, issues that could reshape the world as we know it.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why this stuff matters, right? Like, it's easy to get overwhelmed by all the tech jargon and the mind-blowing numbers and all of it.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, this is about our future.
absolutely. It's about all of us. And I think one of the most important takeaways, from all this research is just the importance of staying informed,
Mm-hmm.
of staying engaged, asking those tough questions,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Don't just accept this narrative that AI is inevitable,
yeah.
that we have no control over how it develops.
So what can we do then, besides maybe like investing in some solar panels and hoping for the best?
Well, I think for starters, just being mindful, right? Being mindful of your own AI. Use
Oh,
every time you interact with a voice assistant. You stream a movie, use a navigation app, all
yeah.
those things. Just remember that those actions, they have an energy cost.
Okay, so being more aware of our own digital footprint.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And then, but what about the bigger picture, right?
Right, exactly.
I think that's where things get really interesting because some of these articles, they talk about the need for more transparency,
Okay.
more accountability in how AI is developed.
Yeah.
Where companies are upfront about, what's the energy consumption, what's the environmental impact of their products, that kind of thing.
So holding these tech giants, these corporations accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
And there are movements already,
Yeah.
pushing for things like AI ethics labels.
What?
Yeah. So similar to like, the nutritional labels we have on food, but it would give consumers information about, the environmental and social costs of different AI systems.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah, give people the information so they can make informed decisions. Knowledge is power.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's really the key takeaway from all of this, I think. The future of AI, it's not predetermined. It's shaped by the choices that we make today as individuals, as consumers, as citizens.
So the next time you're staring at a loading screen waiting for some AI magic to happen,
Right.
take a moment to think about the energy humming away behind that screen and ask yourself, what kind of future do I want to power?
That's a powerful thought to end on.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep asking those questions. I think together, we can ensure that this AI revolution is one that benefits all of humanity. That's a wrap on this deep dive into the energy appetite of AI. Thanks for joining us on this journey. And remember, the most important questions are the ones we ask ourselves. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.